So it didn't take me long to be like, this is just not it. I went back to school for a little bit for my master's. I did human resources. I have a background in human resources. I didn't almost take the final exam because I'm like, I'm not going to finish my master's degree. This is not for me. I knew I would be financially free somehow. I just didn't know how.
Good evening, good people. Welcome to another 203K Tuesday. I'm your host, Aaron, the house person, and this is the place you come to find out everything you don't know about the 203K loan and learn how to use that loan to help create, build, and sustain generational wealth. So, I always talk about strength of team. Like, I'm not going to not talk about strength of team. You've heard me say that before, right? Because strength of team matters. And your number one draft pick for your 203K starting lineup is going to be your realtor. Listen, somebody might tell you something different, and that's perfectly okay. However, it's your realtor, right? And it's your realtor because you're going to spend the majority of your time looking for a home with that person, right? So realtor, then lender, in my opinion. No judgment here. But today I got an amazing realtor that I'm going to bring in right now. Her name is Natay Hayes, and she is a complete rock star up there in Newark, New Jersey. So give me 1 second. Let me bring Natay in now. My stuff situated. I got you already know, got to have the pencil and something to write with, something to write on. Natay, how we doing?
Hey, I'm fantastic tonight. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for asking. So, of course, thank you for being here as well. What I'd like to do is typically I just jump right into the questions because a lot of the things that are normally discussed at the intro of interviews will be kind of broken down throughout the question and answer process. But on the back end, we'll talk about you, your business, is pretty much anything else real estate related. Is that cool?
Sounds fantastic.
All right. So first program. Okay. First question. Do you know the 203K process, and could you explain it from start to finish? Not saying you have to explain it, but do you know it and could you explain it?
Yes, I know it. And yes, I could explain it from start to finish. I've had quite an extensive experience with the 203K loans over my 4 years going on a full-time real estate investor / agent. Well, 4 years full-time real estate agent. I take that back. I've been investing way longer than 4 years.
Okay. Well, so you kind of already answered the next question, which is how long have you been a real estate agent? So you're saying 4 years?
Yeah, I think this year makes 4 years full-time. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know what the actual date is, but happy anniversary.
Thanks. I don't know either. No, actually, sometime in like June, I want to say.
Okay. Summertime. So that's not too far.
No,
About three more months. Yeah. We almost there.
Almost
Man,
there.
it is
Year
March
be over
already,
right?
right? So it's the end of the first quarter already. That's wow.
Crazy. It flies.
Okay. So, would you consider yourself a full-time or part-time realtor?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely a full-time realtor. Though I don't spend all of my time being a real estate agent, I am considered a full-time realtor.
Gotcha. All right. So for folks who work with you, would they be working with a team or you're an army of one?
So it kind of depends on like what my schedule looks like and how much I'm taking on by myself. But for the most part, I'm transitioning a little bit out of production, not fully, because I have a team of women that are sort of maybe underneath me. They're still training with me. I'm mentoring them. So usually anytime I get clients, if I have a full schedule, then I'll give them to my realtors, my other agents, and they'll assist. But the way I was producing when I first started as a full-time agent is not the same way that I'm producing. So it depends. But for the most part, they'll have one of us. And since I've trained them, I'm very confident that, the women on my team can definitely take on the clients and service them just as I have or will or do.
Okay. Cool. All right. So you got a squad. It's okay.
Yeah, you got to. You can't be a one-man army. It's hard to really expand, just kind of working by yourself. Though most of us do it. They start out doing it and you do what can do for a while, but
Hmm.
my hands are on so many pots that it's almost impossible for me to continue to function and
Gotcha.
produce at that level like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So you already answered this question as well, but still gotta ask.
Let me stop hopping ahead of you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's just a natural flow of things. It's perfectly okay. So, are you a real estate investor and or do you work with them? So I know the answer to one, but go ahead.
Yeah, so the answer is yes to both for the most part. I'm definitely a real estate investor. I was investing for about 10 years before I ended up getting my real estate license, honestly. And my real estate license was just for me to continue to buy more houses. I wasn't thinking about selling or buying houses for clients. I'm like, hey, I need my real estate license. I need to move fast in this market. And what better way for me to do it than have my own license? And I guess God said, serve bigger. And so since then, like I've mentioned already, I've been helping other people buy and sell. But on an investor side, so the answer is both yes and no. I don't take on a lot of investors because I know the challenges working with an investor because I'm an investor myself. So you'll be looking for houses, and especially in this market, it's way more complicated and difficult to find, really good quality homes. So you can look for a long time with investors. They're really not quick to pull the trigger because again,
Mhm.
I'm an investor, right? You got to find a perfect deal with the perfect numbers. So if an investor decides to work with me, it's a lot less hand holding from my end. I anticipate that they know their numbers, that they know what they're looking for. So if I send them a slew of deals, they can just be like, hey, Natay, I want to see this one, get me in. I want to make an offer. So this way I can help them, from where they already are. And there's just less hand holding, less, hey, these numbers are good for you. This makes sense. Here's the ARV. I don't have time for all of that. I need you to know what you're looking for. We can go see the property. I can draw on the offer, boom, bing, bang, and have that be it. But for the most part, 99% of my clients are first time home buyers. So it's very different game.
Okay.
Yes, to answer your
Okay.
question, I do both.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Um, so what would you say is the most challenging part of the 203K process?
Oh gosh, what's not challenging about the 203K process? Honestly, it's a headache. It's a major headache. I'll be honest with you. But that's not to deter anybody from using it because I purchased my first property and it was a newly constructed home. It was about 5 years old. And I think the very best thing that I could have done was purchase a property that's almost brand new because here I am 11 years later, my expenses on a property is definitely less than I'd be paying in rent on any given month. So we're talking about maybe 2 grand for the whole year, if that, and that's probably a bad year. So the good thing about the 203K is once it's finished, you do have a brand new product for the most part. That's the hope, right? But the challenges that come with that certainly are time. Time is probably going to be one of the biggest factors. A lot of first time home buyers aren't necessarily, they never invested before. So now you have this big project that's taken a lot of time, to construct because you have permits that you have to pull. You got your 203K consultant that might be taking a long time. Probably the biggest thing is going to be the city that's taking a long time with your permit. So everybody has their hand in your deal, and you're spending all the money. So as your project is being constructed, you're still paying the mortgage on that, right? So sometimes what we do to alleviate that is build in some of the loan costs for the mortgage for some of our clients. So that's the first biggest challenge. And probably the second biggest challenge is probably going to be contractors. It, it's a major headache probably from the onset. So when I have clients that are going into 203K projects, I say, hey, what you want to do is probably get a good 5 contractors in there in the beginning to even give you a quote. Because people won't give you quotes, they won't call you back, or they'll show up, but they won't give the quotes. They'll show up and they won't call you back. They'll show up and they'll say you can't take the project. And before you know it, you even have 5 contractors and it's 2 months in under your contract and they're like, I'm not doing this. So there we end up starting over. So I push for as many contractors as possible in the beginning. And, with that even comes the numbers, making sure that the contractors could do your project on the numbers that you need to be done. So I said a handful. That just
It's
goes to
okay.
show that the 203K process is, it's not a cakewalk. So I'm honest with my clients about it.
Honesty is the best policy.
You gotta be transparent, right?
So as far as loan officers in that area, do you have like some preferred 203K loan officers? If someone says, well, look, I know you said it's kind of, a little rough, but I still think I want to go on this endeavor. Would you be able to refer them to some 203K specialists up there?
Yes, for sure. I've been using like one loan officer for my whole 10 years of investing. Like he's also an investor. So both of us come with an investing hat. We're not just talking about your first project, we're talking about how to get subsequent projects after that. Um, with him being an investor, he also comes with his own set of contractors. Though at this point, we try not to refer out contractors because, they could do an awesome job for one person. Doesn't mean they're going to do a great job for you just because they know me. And that's just the
Right.
name of the game. I can't
Right.
control that. So we try and we've learned the hard way. At this point, we don't really refer so many contractors out, but my loan officer, yeah, I'll always refer him out. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes the next question maybe a little difficult because it is, do you have 203K contractors that you would refer, but but you don't really refer them out? But
So
I mean, go ahead.
yeah, I think it's been a learning process and experience. I'm gonna say no. One, as an investor, I've done some of my own rehabs, right? And one of the hardest lessons I learned probably just last year was like, oh my gosh, this person is doing such a great job until 6 months later, my tiles are breaking. And I'm referring him like, hey, it looks good. It's like I said, until 6 months later when your tiles are breaking. So I'm like, okay, that's a lesson learned. Maybe I should refer nobody until like a year, make sure my house is still standing up. So it takes time for, you to even see some of the nuances that just kind of come up. I do have one awesome contractor too, with that said, that I've been using for the last 10 years, but he's highly expensive. And so when it comes to 203Ks, when it comes to rehabs, the numbers just never work for the clients. Like I never have to call him back to do a job twice, but if you can't afford it and if the numbers don't make sense, how could you use them? You can't. So if you're going to make the project work and you have to stick within a certain budget, you kind of got to go, a little bit cheaper. But I don't know.
Yeah, makes sense. And it's right now it's kind of hard to be a little bit cheaper considering the cost of everything. I mean, material prices are through the
Mhm.
roof.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
yeah. Okay. Um, so are you currently working with anyone navigating the 203K process alone?
So at this part in time, no, I haven't. The last 2 or 3K might have been a couple of months ago, to be honest with you. You
Okay.
the challenge is the market is tight. That's just number
Hmm.
one. There's not a lot of inventory, and there's probably far fewer rehabs for clients at this point. Sellers know that they can get top dollar. They don't necessarily have to wait for a mortgage for it. So that 2 or 3K home that they would probably sell to a FHA buyer waiting, 90 days or whatever to close, they can go out and get a cash buyer and close in like 2 weeks.
Mm,
So the competition has become a lot stiffer for, properties like that.
yeah. Yes. It's rough out here in these streets.
Yeah, you know it. You know it.
All right. So even though it's a little tighter as far as market wise, inventory wise, and even though there's some challenges, bumps and bruises, if someone was to say, "Hey, look, I'm still interested, but I want to talk to some folks who you've worked with as far as the 2 or 3K is concerned," like, would you have? I mean, you got the one from a couple months ago. Would you have some folks where you can say, "Look, well, here's a person, here's a couple people that I've worked with that you can speak to and get an idea of the process and how they feel about it and all that good stuff."
Yeah. Yes, 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 for sure. I'll probably send them first to the city. Be like, go talk to the city, see how long it's gonna take you for your permits and see what that process is like. Then come back and see if you want to talk to everybody else. But yeah, yeah, I do. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. The permit process with people working remotely has made things very challenging from what I'm hearing. Like no matter where you are, uh, yeah, it's rough out here. I mean, it really is. It really is.
I know. It is. That's the name of the game. That's real estate for you. Everybody thinks it's a nice cakewalk. I mean, we do a good job of making it look pretty, but I try my best to show my losses just as much as I showcase my wins so people can get a much more realistic, entire overview of real estate and how it works.
Good deal, good deal. So look, that wraps up the questions. So we're done with that part, but now we want to kind of dig into a little more about Natay and what she has going on. Where you've been, where you are, where you see yourself going.
Sure.
So now you mentioned the good and the bad, right? So one of the things I found myself talking to people about is the HGTV craze, right? So people see all the different shows on HGTV and automatically think like, oh, this is easy, like I said. But they don't see the part that's cut, like, oh, okay, we're gonna edit that out. Like we don't need to show that part. They just see all the happy stuff. Maybe
Correct.
one little issue, but I mean, it's really not an issue. But that other side, the stuff that you really have to go through, that part is where the rubber meets the road. So that's great that you actually inform your clients about that, because hey, like this is what you're going to expect.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to probably expect much more than I could even tell you, because it's always something different that comes up that you just never even anticipate.
100%. So you said you started investing 10 years before you got licensed, and you got licensed in order to basically have your own access and get to those properties without having to go through a realtor. How'd you get into investing?
So I tell people all the time that I'm really, really lazy. I know what it looks like on social media, but I'm lazy, right? So I just knew a 9 to 5 just was not for me a long, long time ago. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, totally changed my whole outlook on like
Great book.
trading time for dollars, purchasing. He talks about real estate in the book. And then somehow, some way, I'm like, if I'm going to have like money at the end of the month or discretionary income at the end of the month, or live a life where I'm able to not depend on my job's income, I need to get rid of the biggest expense that I pay on a monthly basis, which was rent. That's all I remember. I'm like, I'm making $40,000 a year at this job. I'm working nonprofit. And I literally remember spending $1,200 on rent the first paycheck, and the second paycheck going to the rest of the bills, and I'm living off of whatever's left. And that's how most Americans live, let's be honest. So I'm like, I have to find a way to get this expense out of the way so that if my job ever fired me, I'm not out here struggling. And so I'm like, why don't I just stop renting and purchase a 3-family house where I can live in one of the units, have my tenants pay the other 2 units, and have my tenants pay the mortgage from the other 2 units. And I'm doing okay if I can live for free. At the very least, I'm not contributing anything. They might can pay the whole entire mortgage, or at the very best, I'm living for free and profiting. So that's exactly what I did. Ended up moving to Newark at a time when nobody wanted to move to Newark. I bought when the crash was happening. My house, 3-family home, like I mentioned, the previous owner had it for 500,000. They lost it at the crash. I picked it up for 220. All my neighbors are pissed at me because they know how much I bought for my house. They're like, "Oh my God, we still owe 400,000 on our house, and you owe like at this point I owe 170, right? And the house is worth 650." So in any case, I was renting out 2 units. I was renting out 1 unit for 1,500, renting out my second unit for 1,400. That was $2,900 a month that I was bringing in rent. My mortgage is fluctuated, but I think when I first purchased it, it might have been like $2,300 a month. So I'm bringing in close to 3 grand, paying like maybe $2,500 a month, water bill, electric bill. I'm making $500 a month. So not only did I eliminate my rent as the biggest expense, but now I'm able to save that $1,000, that $1,200 a month that I was spending in rent. And on top of that, save the extra $500 a month that I'm making here. I was saving almost $1,700 a month off of a $40,000 job. I was like, if I can do this once, I can do this 5 times. If I didn't live at my house, it'll bring me in about $2,500 a month. I was like, if I could just bring in $2,500 a month from 5 properties, I'm okay. I'm okay. And that's how I started to really look at money and finances and homes and home ownerships. And once I had that first house, got fired a couple of times, lost a couple of jobs, quit a couple of jobs. And I was set. The last time that they fired me was, I think, in 2018 or 2019, and I never looked back from there. With
You said the last time that they fired me.
Yeah, it was like
Those
2017,
people.
2018, maybe the last time they fired me. Yep. So
So
I was
right now you are unfireable
I'm
at this point.
unfireable. In fact, I'm helping people out here, create six figures through real estate, and they're helping their family. I knew I wasn't meant to be in that job. You just know. I just knew I wasn't meant to be there. So
So do you remember how you found Rich Dad Poor Dad? Was it like an ad or somebody suggested it or stumbled on it?
I can't fully say I remember. It was a long time ago. I was in undergrad. It was the summer that I had graduated from undergrad. That's all I fully remember. That's all
Okay.
I remember. I had did a couple of network marketing companies, and I was just like, this work, this 9 to 5. I was 6 months into a 9 to 5, graduating college, and I'm like, oh my God, how many more years do I have to retire? When can I get out of here? So it didn't take me long to be like, this is just not it. I went back to school for a little bit for my master's. I did human resources. I have a background in human resources. I didn't almost take the final exam because I'm like, I'm not going to finish my master's degree. This is not for me. I knew I would be financially free somehow. I just didn't know how. Honestly, I
Gotcha.
didn't know how. So yeah, once I fell into real estate and once I saw I haven't paid a mortgage on this property in 11 years. Like,
Mm,
my tenants have covered the entire mortgage on this property, and I have $500,000 in equity. That's
that's a
insane when you think about it. And it's just one house, and I bought six.
that's a beautiful thing. And hindsight 2020, you know what you know when you know it. And I wish I could tell my younger self, hey, instead of buying that single family home for your first property, get more than one door, please.
Mhm.
But since I can't, I tell everybody else, like, look, if you haven't bought a house yet, if you can, please get more than one door or find a way that you can kind of hack that house up, right? House hack,
Yeah.
and create another stream of revenue to at least offset your mortgage if you can't get it to pay the entire thing or provide you with that cash flow that is, helping you fuel the engine to go ahead and get those other properties. So that's amazing. So 3 unit out the gate.
3 unit
And
out the gate because I knew it. I'm like, single family wasn't for me because I was like, what happens if I get fired? And that's all I knew is getting fired.
so hey, look, that's good forward thinking. You like, hold on, okay. So I know this job thing ain't for me, and I know I like to get fired. So let me figure something out and make sure I'm planning ahead. So that's yeah, no, that's great forward thinking. Um, that's great forward thinking. So, all right. So you said you also work with first time home buyers, and so you're helping them kind of go through the same process that you went through, and get multiple doors and things of that nature.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of my clients, almost like all of them, like I said, about 99% of them come to me because I guess of, the marketing that I've done, just
Mhm.
happen to just be sharing, what my journey has been, how high the rents are here in New Jersey. Some people who are lucky enough to still have their job, have their income, and still on top of that making, $2,000 a month from a rental property is significant. It's like how many things can go wrong, in a couple of months that is going to wipe you out. It's close to none. You can really do good, in 6 months, $2,000 a month. You almost have 12 grand saved up, right? Now you can go
Mhm.
out and do some other things with that. If it's buying another house, and you can do another thing with that. At that point, some of them are typically older. So you should have a 401k saved up. Can you take money from that? Can you go out and buy two houses? Can you partner up with somebody? What can you do to start catapulting your own real estate experience and portfolio if that's what you chose? So all of my clients usually buy two family homes, three families, four families. I strategize with them. Here are your numbers. Here's your rental income. Hey, the rest is kind of history.
So do you guys have a good amount of multifamily up that way, or I
Yeah.
mean, I know it's a finite amount, but like, is it,
It's a good amount. Most of the urban cities in New Jersey, at least in like Essex, Union County, Newark, Irvington, East Orange, all blocks and blocks of multifamily. So it's not like one here, one there. It's
wow,
blocks and blocks of them.
okay, that's amazing. Because yeah, down here on DC metro area, we It's a small amount. I mean, we have more so, I would say, so DC, we have more so 4 units, quads, but duplexes, you'll see them from time to time. Triplexes, not so much. More so in Baltimore, you have the triplexes, duplexes, but kind of in the DC area is and the surrounding counties, the Maryland counties that surround it are more so in the quad nature, but it's definitely not a lot of them, and a lot more people are starting to get hip, and it's I won't say fist fight, but you know how the market is, and of course on that side it's about the same as well. People are trying to offset that mortgage payment and live rent mortgage free.
It makes sense. Makes sense.
So invest like a girl. That is your background. So talk to me about invest like a girl.
So invest like a girl was really, really just a catchy phrase that I just kind of loved, fell in love with. So I kind of kept it. And what I found sort of when I started getting started into real estate 10 years ago, now maybe not so much, but even even now, but just a little bit more. There's not a lot of women in the investing in the sales in as a real estate agent, right? Yes, but not so much in the investing part of it. And so my goal with Invest Like a Girl was really to teach women about, real estate. And I remember also when I was getting started, I would go to some real estate networking events, people in the room that didn't look like me. I'm shy. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm having a hard time navigating the space. And then I realized it's not until you get confident that you can step in these rooms. So now I step in rooms with CEOs, and then I'm at the dinner table with them because now I'm talking the language. Right now, my posture is way up because I know what I'm talking about, and I'm confident about talking about it. And so That's Like a Girl is really just a safe space for women to kind of just get together and learn, how to invest, how to navigate this male dominant space as being a confident woman. Otherwise, you will get knocked out if you step around and you're just not confident. People are going to take advantage of you because you're a woman. They don't think you're going to think you don't know what you're talking about. So there's a lot of challenges that women have to navigate. So I know if I open it up to men, and I have friends that are like, why are you like leaving men out? And I'm not leaving men out. I just know that in those spaces, men are going to over talk. The women aren't going to talk, and they're not going to get what I intended for them to get. You guys are just always out there. Nothing, y'all ain't afraid of nothing. Doesn't matter. You can look foolish. Y'all don't care. Women, for the most part, I don't want to stereotype, but for the most part, we just tend to be a little bit different. So I wanted to create a safe space for them to open up, and we can dialogue about really, how to get out here and get this bag.
Okay, so instead of a Greek situation, you have a real estate investing sorority, for the women, right? Where you created that safe space for them to learn and share ideas and just grow and prosper. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
and you're right. It is a lot of guys who just kind of bull their way through the rooms and what is it? Bull in the china shop, like. Yeah, that's not what you want in there.
You said it perfectly. I know they would dominate the space. I'm in spaces with men all the time. Didn't they dominate the space? So I needed to pull them to the side a little bit. So yeah, it's a quarterly seminar, I should say, that we just do via Zoom. And we've had a lot of attendees over the course of the year. So I'm really excited. So I'll be bringing it back again in April. I took some time off just to travel or whatever. Sometimes we're just like, I don't really want to do it, but yeah, I'm gonna be back at it come April.
All right. So was that something like was that brainchild from, I guess, because the setting I see Diva Keys LLC.
Yeah.
Right. So again, that's kind of, I mean, I won't say a diva has to be a woman, but for the most part, that's what you think of when you hear the word diva.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay. That's good. So I got the mentoring program for investors. Is that something separate, or is that the Invest Like a Girl? Is that
yeah, so I mean, I've swung in and out. So Invest Like a Girl is not particularly a mentoring program. I did at some point have a specific mentoring program
Okay.
where I would take on students for about 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. It depends on what we discuss. And I've
Hmm.
had quite a few students go through that. That was just something that I've done sort of when my schedule was a little bit lighter. People would DM me, hey, Natay, you know what? I love what you're doing. I want to learn. And I would just put together a quick program for them, for us to go through numbers. I'll go through,
Okay.
ARVs, comps, appraisals. I'm kind
Hmm.
of showing them everything that's in my sphere that I've done, how I analyze my deals, how I choose good deals. So I probably had, I don't know, a handful, maybe like less than 10 students go through the program. Again, it's really something that's been very informal, but
Hmm.
it, my attention, my time, hand holding, we'll speak twice a week, probably for a half hour. I'll give them homework. We'll go over an example. So I think I found that's the best way people learn. It's not just kind of going over there and getting on YouTube and having to put pieces together. I found, even
Hmm.
now I'm stepping into new spaces and I'm like, I can't go on YouTube and put pieces together. How do I know which pieces I'm missing? So
Right.
that's always the biggest challenge when it comes to real estate. And people just like, oh, the information is out there. Yeah, it's out there, but is it coherent and consistent where it makes sense so that I can piece it together from A to Z? So that was my goal with the mentorship program, that I would take students from A to Z. And by the end of the mentorship program, depending on which week they chose, usually like the 6 to 8 week program, they're analyzing their own numbers, they're analyzing their own deals, they know how to get deals. I had one client actually purchase an out-of-state investment because she's worked with me and she was able to figure out, things that made sense. So I'm excited that I can teach where people can understand and they get it. So that's
Good.
my mentoring program. Hmm.
That's good. That's good. And so, okay, so the agents that have come through, or who I guess you've hired, they've all pretty much gone through your training, and they had the same, looking from the same lens that you're looking from as far as real estate investing as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yes, I have agents, my friends. They are literally my close friends and girlfriends that they're like, "Hey, Natay, again, I love what you're doing. Could you teach me?" And so
Mhm.
they say, "Hey," I'll be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll teach you. Come on some of my deals." And again, I'm just like, the best way for people to learn is to see what you're doing, and then you let them learn on their own with their own
Mhm.
clients, or you give them stuff, right? Just like school, I guess.
Yep.
So that's what I did with about 3 of my agents. I'll actually be highlighting them this month for Women's History Month.
Okay.
Renee, she's actually a good friend of the family, so she started out with me as almost an assistant. I would give her stuff, she would learn. She's investing, she runs, she co-hosts Invest Like a Girl. So that's when your agents are learning when they're able to teach. So
Absolutely.
Renee,
Absolutely.
yeah, Lordy, she also started with me. She was recommended from a friend of my family, and I took her out in the field. I was like, hey, let's go look at some houses. She actually ended up buying a property that I rehabbed with a friend of mine. Rehab that. We sold that property to her. She was cash flowing, I don't know, $1,500 a month. She just sold that property, cashed out 6 figures. She had that property probably for like 2 to 3 years. My
Mm.
other girlfriend, Nibby, I'm like, hey, y'all need to buy properties. When I was buying them back in like 2011, I'm like, buy this house. You're going to just make a lot of money. That's all I freaking knew. So she just cashed out about $170,000 because I'm like, it's time to sell it. And they just kind of listen to me. So it is
All
like,
right.
it's a big deal. It's amazing that you can just tell your friends, hey, buy a house. And then like, hey, sell your house, right? And then they listen to you. Like, that's a big deal. So yeah, I'll be highlighting those women this month. Mm.
Well, you only get extended that type of trust if you've proven yourself. So that's a kudos to you, because you've done what you needed to do to show them like she's the truth. Like, all right, you said sell. I need to. You know what I mean? So
That's
yeah,
true.
that's amazing. That's amazing. So okay, let me go back for a second. You said you had 6 properties.
Yes.
How many doors total for those 6 properties?
It was about somewhere up in about 20 doors.
20 doors.
Yeah, it's about
That's
20.
all right. That's all right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. Um, Looking for more?
So Not in the same capacity, actually. You know, the market was really favorable to sellers this past summer. So I decided to throw my hat in the pile and sell. You know, initially I was like, oh, I could just sell this one property, cash out almost 200 grand. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have six. What if I sold more of them? And, you know, that coupled with COVID, I had, you know, I was a landlord for 10 years. I've only had one eviction. My first eviction just took place like the last year.
Wow.
And he wasn't paying for a whole year, but that was enough given COVID, given the fact that if I sold, I'm up a lot. It was just enough for me to just get rid of most of my portfolio. Honestly, I had 18 offers on one property, 75 grand over ask. I was just like, why don't I just look into a new business model? So as I transition out of the small residential multifamilies, I decided that I'm going to get into apartment buildings, 30, 40 units. I mean, I can continue to buy more three families, but how long will it take me to get to 50 doors? A long time. Like I could just buy one 50 unit building and buy more of those and not really have to deal with small multifamilies anymore. So I'm like, hey, this is kind of exciting. Sold 4 or 5. I'm only keeping the one that I first purchased that I live in. That's not really going anywhere.
The original, okay.
The original one, yeah, because I live here. There's no need for me to sell it. Where am I going? And I owe $170,000 on a house that's close to 700 grand. It doesn't make no sense for me to sell it. I'd be silly to sell it at this point. Because I know it'll probably go to $1 million one of these days. I'm 5 minutes away from Newark Airport, from downtown Newark, train station, very prime location. So yeah, and I live here for free. I'm not going nowhere.
Right, for free. And then there's that. That's all right.
There's that. So all those factors, I'm gonna keep it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, first of all, congratulations, because you took action and repeated action, and you're able to reap the rewards of your action. Did you play Monopoly growing up?
I did, of course. I did. And you know what? My uncle and my dad actually used to own a couple of buildings in Massachusetts, but I was super young. I was sitting in the back of the car. I never really knew, but perhaps exposure was important. But I know they sold them. And then it's funny that I helped my same uncle buy 2 houses, and he cashed out about 200 grand just like over the last 2 years. And he's asking me for help. I'm like, Uncle, I thought you used to buy houses. How are you asking? So he might have just been following my father. And I don't know. I was young. I was probably like 10. But I thought that was very funny.
So, okay. So your circle is winning. That is all right.
You know,
that's all right.
I think we have a responsibility to make sure our circle wins. You know, a lot of us, usually an extra $500 a month can just get us out of the rat race, the struggle. And, you know, gas prices going up, food prices going up. It's getting tight on people who have been barely making it. So, you know, especially in our communities, I'm really conscious about that. And so I'm purposeful in doing what I do in real estate, because I understand like this is a way for us to create wealth. And in my opinion, it might be one of the easiest barriers of entries to do so. You have things like the 203K, the FHA, where, you know, 15 grand can get you into a multi-unit, $20,000. And it might seem like a lot and hard for people to save that. But if you save your taxes, you do it over a course of a couple of years, you'll be there.
I tell you what, it's a lot cheaper than putting down 20%.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I put down 20% a lot.
Whole lot cheaper. Okay, so when you look back at, or I guess think back to when you played Monopoly, and you know however long ago that was, can you see like the principles that Monopoly taught, even though we didn't know we were learning principles back then, right? But can you see how the principles that Monopoly taught kind of plays out to what you're doing today?
Yeah, for sure. What is it? 4 greenhouses for the one red hotel?
Yep.
That's it. That's what I'm doing. And you know what?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was actually a buy and hold investor forever. I never planned to sell anything. I bought my properties at really, really low markets. You know, my second house was like $130,000 three family. At one point, I owed 90,000 because I put 30 grand down. I sold
Mhm,
that last summer for 450. But, you know, people would probably tell me, oh, you know, looking back in Newark maybe a couple of years ago or a couple of years from now, oh, you shouldn't have sold. But by that time, hopefully that 300,000 turns into 3 million so that I'm not worried about what I missed out on. But
mhm,
the point, then yeah, that's the point, you know, to keep using your your profits to make you more profits. That's the
mhm,
of the game. So I was like, I had plans for my money. So selling, I wasn't attached to those houses and keeping them and hoping that in 5 or 10 years they're worth another 500,000. That's great. But if I can go out and make $500,000 right now, I don't really care about what's going to happen in another 5 or 10 years.
there you go. That's it. That's it. One of the key things that I think I learned in reflection with Monopoly is that how it starts out, right? You're going around, you hit go, you get your paycheck, right? Your W-2. Um, but you buy land, raw land that you develop by putting that first house on there, then that second house, then that third house, and that fourth house, ironically, is just like FHA. You know, you can get up to 4 units, and that was in that one residential loan, and then knock all those down for higher and better use, and get that red hotel where you start pumping that money in, such
Mhm.
as what you're about to be doing, or maybe already doing now, just haven't talked about it. But so that's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. So
Yeah.
I saw something online. Hope for cities.
Hmm. You
What's
Googled me. It's all good.
so is there anything you can share about that situation or
That was a write up on me, I want to say, but that might have been like, was that 10 years ago? I I can't even say I remember.
that might have been
It was a long
it was
time
a
ago.
while ago.
I want to say one of my friends did a write up on me. I don't remember if it was for my travels. It's not something that she utilizes now, or it's not a website that she utilizes now, which would have me like remember.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, I can't say fully that I recall 100%. I'm sorry.
No worries. I mean, it definitely had you were talking about you starting out in real estate and a little bit of that and just building up the community of Newark and things of
Okay.
that nature.
Okay.
So but it sounds like from what you've been doing anyway, just helping other people get multi units and things of that nature. Because again, buying so the property that you bought, you said was a short sale foreclosure.
My first property was actually a short sale.
Short sale. Okay. So I mean, when you come in, you're saving the neighborhood because as we know, foreclosures are not good for the community. That brings
Uh-huh.
down the property value for everyone, especially if it sits for a while. So, by your actions personally, and then of course helping other people, I mean, you're saving the community. Like you're keeping it uplifted, keeping the taxpayer dollars into the city so they can continue to keep the roads going, to pay the teachers, pay the public servants. So you're doing a great thing. Like you really are.
Trying. Thank
Yeah,
you.
people really don't think about that as far as real estate and real estate investors. Like a lot of times people just think real estate investors are greedy, but I don't think they really realize that without the real estate investor, it would be a lot of bad things going on. Like
Homelessness. Where are people going to
what?
live, right? We provide housing, right? We provide housing to members of the community. We
Hmm.
determine, you know, how much the rent is going to be. We determine if you're going to get to stay there or not. It could be a good thing and a bad thing, right? If rent starts to raise, now we need to raise rent, or we can decide, hey, we're going to keep your rent the same and
Hmm.
change the trajectory of that person's family that's staying there because now you don't have to spend an arm and a leg in your rent because I'm allowing you to still rent my spot for cheaper. So it's a big deal. It is a very big deal. So
And investors take the risk. Like you're risking your money, your credit, your name to go out there, get this property renovated, and then put it back into the community as a bona fide, uh,
yeah,
wonderful place to live. So there's not a lot of people who are willing to do that. So it's tough that investors get a bad rap, but
I know. Some of
we're
them
not doing a
do.
bad.
Some of them do. There are slumlords out there that don't keep the community up. Sometimes they'll invest in one community, live in another community, and not necessarily care.
That
So
is
I
true.
think we all
That is
have
true.
a duty to, be responsible. So yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. So one of the other things that I saw is you are a traveler.
Yes, I am.
How many places would you say offhand, different countries that you've been to?
About 50. I had a list, but I don't even keep track anymore because at this point I go to a lot of repeat spots. So
Okay.
it's not like I'm going places, but I'm not adding new numbers to my list for the most
Mhm.
part. But yeah, I've been to about 50 something countries at this point.
So you've been to as many countries as we have states. That's amazing.
I guess I have when you put it that way.
That is absolutely amazing. And one of the trips that I just saw, I don't know if you can talk about it, but
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it.
I read the captions. I just took a group of people
Yeah.
to Africa.
Yeah. I mean, my information is out there on social media for the world to see. So I'm happy to share whatever views come across and more. But yeah, I did. It was my sister's 30th birthday, actually. So last year when she had turned 29, I was like, my sister's going to turn 30 next year. It'll be a nice birthday gift for her. She's never been out the country. Most of the people that's coming with me never been out to the country, let alone Africa. So I had this idea in like August of 2019. I was like, hey, called up some of her friends. I called up some of my family members who I thought she would want to take on the trip, who I knew she would want to take on the trip. Like, hey, you guys want to go to Africa? I'll charge y'all $500. So I charged them $500. I was able, because I had, a good real estate year, pick up the rest of the price for the villa. They bought their own flight, which is like 700. We had a butler to cook breakfast, so that was kind of already taken care of. So almost $1,200. Add in money for tours, food. Might be at a $2,000 trip for like 11 days to Africa.
Mm.
Nobody debated me at that one. They were like, they're there. So yeah, it's just it's a big blessing to be in a position where I went from like 40 grand a year trying to pay my rent and survive over paycheck to paycheck, figuring out, where my next money is coming from, how I'm going to, what I'm going to be in a position where I can pay for, it was like 12 people to go to South Africa and pick up the tab and not even lose sleep over it. So I don't take that for granted at all. They had an amazing experience. I love South Africa. I go back at least once a year, but to see, the people that you love, like enjoy life the same way you enjoy life, there's just no better feeling. And I think that's a big part of why I do this. It's like I have probably much more than I need just by living for free. So anything else is like a bonus in my whole entire life. So I'm definitely ensure that that gratitude plays out in ways that other people can live a life of fullness, how they see fit, and sort of how I saw it fit.
Love it. I love it. Man, I love it. That's great. That's great. When I saw it, I was like, wow, okay. I have to talk to her about this.
Yes, yeah, no, thanks for talking about it. I loved it. They had a great time. It's amazing. You have
That's
a chance. If you
amazing.
need to go. Yeah, South Africa is it's like my second favorite country in the world. Vietnam is my first, South Africa is my second. South Africa, and I go back every year.
Saying, and all of this started from one, knowing what you didn't want, right? Like, I know I don't want this. And then going to find something that would work for you. Stumbled on Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, great book. I suggest everyone go read it. And you can also read the follow-up Cash Flow Quadrant as well. That's another, eye-opening, brain unlocking book as well. And then from there, got your first property, house hack, 3-unit, got it for the low, short sale, stayed there, stacked your coins, got your next property, and then your next property, and then your next property, and then your next property.
Yeah. And I kept rinse, washing, and repeating. That's what I kept doing.
Another thing I find amazing is that you said you had one eviction.
Yeah, in 10 years.
10 years. That's amazing. That is amazing.
I did really, really good.
And you were self-managing or
I
property manager?
self-manage. I self-manage. So what I find, honestly, I find just that a lot of landlords don't do their necessarily due diligence or do any due diligence most of the time. You're just putting any Joe Schmo that walks in with an application into your rental. Me, that was a no-no. I have one tenant here. She's been here since I purchased the property, actually. That's almost 11 years. And now her
Mm,
family lives downstairs. I've had maybe like 3 or 4 tenants. I don't really get a lot of turnover because, again, my home is relatively new. Even a 15-year-old home is still new for the most part, you know.
mhm,
So I don't get a lot of turnover in this property, even my other ones. So I'm very conscious of my tenant application, right? I use an application. One of the things I haven't used so much is credit. I don't really use credit. I'm in Newark, right? Not everybody has great credit. Let's just call it what it is. So
mhm,
my thing is I always go back 6 months to see rental history, rental income, pay stubs, and bank statements to make sure that they've been paying the rent on time. I do call previous landlords. I do check to make sure that that landlord in fact owns the property. And I'm real wary of people who happen to, I don't know, maybe there's like a family of four and they've been living with their family for the last 10 years. I don't know. I usually don't take those people because in my mind, no, you've been living renting somewhere, you're just not paying your landlord. So what's going to happen is you're going to come to my house and not pay me.
mm,
So, I sort of use some discretion when I'm renting because that one tenant was enough to make me like, oh, I'm never doing this again. So my first thing when I'm going to invest in my apartment buildings is I'm not investing in any tenant friendly states. I need landlord friendly states only because I need to be able to get you out. I can't
mhm,
have you messing up my money and then the city siding with you to also mess up my money.
mm,
Um, so, I didn't do my due diligence on that one. And it happens to the best of us, right? It's business. I'm not really crying anymore over it. But I'm like, that's just not going to happen ever again. So, a lot of bad tenants unfortunately mess it up for the rest of the folks. So if I was going to do small rentals, multifamilies, I would probably just do Section 8, to be honest with you. I'd much rather take my chances with guaranteed income and somebody messing up my property than I will with somebody not paying me for a year. Which one is
mm.
worse?
Right,
So, yeah.
100%.
And I also, for the listeners that are listening, I also do like a pop-up visit for tenants when they tell me they're ready to submit an application. I say, cool, what time can I come to your house to get it? Because how you keep your current house is how you're going to keep my house. So one of the things I've never had an issue with is a messed up unit. Never had an issue with a messed up unit. So, I like to think that I did well, but I'm also not guessing out here. I'm using, pretty strict criteria, and it takes a lot of tenants that are, may BS you out of the picture sometimes really quickly. They're like, oh, I see I can't get over on this landlord. Let me go somewhere where it's easier. That's fine. That's fine. You're not gonna get me stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, look, Natay, you absolutely dropped some gems. You
Yeah.
absolutely said some things that I believe will motivate folks to kind of reshape how they see housing in general. For those who, again, haven't bought that first home yet, or maybe you have and you're rethinking things you need to downsize, or you're just looking to make some changes.
Mhm.
Multifamily, you see what it did for Natay. Like it opened up a lot of doors for her, 20 doors for her.
Yes.
And in the process of opening up 50 or so doors for her or more, right? I thank you for being here and sharing your story, letting folks know, just how you out here helping folks invest like a girl, and just really just uplifting your circle and people around you, and just your city, all of that good stuff. It's phenomenal, and we need more of that. So I thank you for doing what you do,
Thank
um,
you. Thank you.
and for the people who are looking for you,
Yes.
how can they find you?
I'm happy you asked. I am on Facebook and Instagram, first name, last name at Natay Hayes, Natayhayes. I am also speaking with my brand strategist, and we should be releasing my ebook, and I have an e-course that's coming out maybe tonight, or by the
Oh,
time
wow.
the replay of this happens, it should be out there. So they're free to go to natayhayes.com. Definitely get a copy of the ebook. I share, how I was able to save $1,000 a month off of a $40,000 job. So I definitely drop some tips on those that are looking to purchase a first multifamily or first house. It doesn't have to be multifamily. Not everybody wants a multifamily, and that's all good. But
True.
we definitely to start talking about the wealth building conversation through real estate. So I'm on all those three platforms.
Okay. And you said e-course is on the way as well.
The e-course, yes, and the ebook should be released at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. So by the time this airs, hopefully it's all out there.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
thank you, Aaron.
No, thank you again. And thank you all for watching. This has been another edition of 203K Tuesday, and I will see you next time.
Have a
Thanks,
wonderful
Natay.
day. You're welcome.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell. Thanks for watching.